This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by the Next 1000 Pledge at pledgebank.com/next1000.
Dave Ridley here, signing in for RidleyReport.com this June 27th, 2008, and I have disturbing news to report from Charlestown, New Hampshire. But, as always, I have a take on it that you won't hear from the mainstream press. A 53-year-old man apparently opened fire on police last night, or yesterday, July 26th. The details in the mainstream press are pretty sketchy. They're saying police were trying to serve a warrant, and that when they discovered the man was allegedly a felon in possession of a firearm, they tried to arrest him. He wouldn't go quietly, and then you have the gunplay. Well, the first thing I'd like to say about this, of course, obviously, is I hope the trooper gets better fast. I understand, like I said, he was not suffering any life-threatening injuries. I heard from one source he was shot in the leg. And I would say this is just a reminder that it's not appropriate to use violence against the government in the modern context or in the current context of society. It just makes the government more powerful, and it makes you dead. That was an idea that I think Mike Fisher, more than anyone else, really got into my head, and it is stuck there. Violence against the government just makes it get bigger and generate sympathy for it. Of course, I have no idea whether this gentleman wanted the government to get smaller or bigger. I don't know anything about him. We don't even know his name. But apparently there were minors in the house and just various other people and another man. I don't know how many people in the house total. So this was a gunplay weapons exchange going off basically inside a house full of people who apparently were not initially charged with anything. So I would like to think they had a very good reason for going in there. My questions would be, was this warrant issued for the purpose of stopping or punishing some sort of aggressive crime or some sort of theft? Or were they in there taking these risks and making this sort of, invasion based on some victimless crime issue? Since police are giving out so few details at this point, that's the best I can do, is just ask these questions to the world. Did the entry into the home unnecessarily endanger innocents and minors? Was there some other way authorities could have gone about getting what they wanted? For all I know, the man was a threat to society, and there was a reason for doing this, but I just don't know that. And police so often will come after somebody over drug charges or gun charges or something where there's not anyone threatened, not anyone harmed, and the fact that they do that so often sort of reduces the credibility of the things that they try to do to protect us. It makes it hard to tell when they're trying to protect us and when they're doing something against a victimless criminal. Another question I would have is it appropriate to try and punish someone or arrest someone for having a weapon just because they have a felony on their record? Bear in mind there are probably 1,000 different types of felonies that you can commit that don't harm anybody, don't endanger anybody, or at least don't do so without their consent. If, for instance, this gentleman had been caught having a weapon on his person in Massachusetts without all this complex government licensing, that would have been considered a felony, something completely legal in New Hampshire. But if he had done it in Massachusetts, he would have become a felon in possession of firearms every time he carried a weapon in New Hampshire. You can be a felon for having had, a certain amount of marijuana on your person and being caught a certain number of times. The fact that you're a felon doesn't automatically make you a threat to anyone. Would this circumstance have played out differently if the law were not so draconian? If so many essentially harmless things were not illegal? I hope any police who are watching this realize I used to be a supporter of law enforcement, and what pushed me away, what made me ask all these questions every time law enforcement does something, is the victimless crime issue. You ruin so many innocent lives because of victimless crimes that when you actually go out and try to maybe do something good, which this might have been, it might not have been, people don't know. We don't know when to trust you and when not to. You harm so many innocent people and enforce so many unjust laws it's starting to become unclear to people who is the bad guy when the police do something. Anyhow, those are some of my questions and concerns. Of course, it may be that as we learn more about this gentleman who was killed, we will not find ourselves particularly outraged that authorities were after him. Maybe he did something terrible, but maybe he didn't. And that's the dangerous thing in American society right now, is that so often the latter is the case. Anyway, it's Dave Ridley signing off for RidleyReport.com. Oh, and one last question. There was apparently another person in the house. Well, a person was taken away from the scene in handcuffs. I'm wondering what they were charged with, who they were, and again, were they charged with anything that involved endangering or harming others against their will? Would the charges have been necessary if the police had not gone into the private property? I would hope that everyone by now understands the natural anger that generates in people when police intrude into their property. Again, maybe there was a stellar reason for doing it. I'm just waiting to hear.
1,000 Free Staters have promised they'll move to New Hampshire by the end of '08. Nearly 600 have already done so. But what if we could get 2,000 and get them by the autumn of 2011? That's the goal of the Next 1,000 pledge. Drop by pledgebank.com/next1000 and sign up today.
Next 1,000.